first memories were of the sorority pledges coming into the neighborhoods and asking to borrow tricycles.
All these great memories came back, you know, you kind of put them in a box and put them up in the attic.
Winding the clock back 25 years, a journey began that would bring the women of Indiana University from a humble tricycle race to this quarter-of-a-century-long milestone.
Hopefully this race is not just symbolic of the race, it's symbolic of what women can do.
And we are underway in Bloomington.
In last year's race, the women of Teeter claimed their second consecutive victory.
Teeter will be champions of the Little Five in 2011.
Will it be a three-peat, or will the ladies of Delta, Gamma, and Wing It put an end to a win streak? Live from Bloomington, Indiana, this is the 25th running of the Women's Little 500 on HDNet.
A quarter century of excellence on the women's race of the Little Five. A soggy track this evening. Riders trying to loosen and stay dry the best they can as we get ready for the Little 500 from Armstrong Stadium. Rich Cellini, Dylan Casey, Jason Sonnenborn, welcome to Bloomington. Gentlemen, your first thoughts on the Little Five. Dylan, first, the competitiveness of this women's race.
Well, you know, this isn't for fun anymore. This isn't just a hobby. These women are taking this race very seriously. They have full-time mechanics, full-time massage therapists, nutritionists, and even though it's raining today, they are definitely looking forward to a real race.
All right, Jason Sonnenborn, a proud IU alum and four-time participant in the Little Five. This is turning into a great tradition on even par with the men.
Hey, there's no place I'd rather be today than at the Women's Little 500 here in Bloomington, Indiana. No, really, after 25 years, they've got it. Teamwork, scholarships for working students, and really a tradition that makes this a premier bike race for all colleges all around the world.
Well, 25 years ago, it was the pioneers from Kappa Alpha Theta who created the women's race, and we caught up with two of the leaders of that movement.
In 1987, two women from Kappa Alpha Theta began a journey that would transcend gender lines and ignite a fire for women cycling on the IU campus.
There was no Women's Little 500. There were just series events. So we signed up to race in team pursuit. As we got more into training, the guys really encouraged us and we felt more confident in our ability. We actually went to the men's mass riders meeting and signed up to qualify for the Men's Little 500.
I just remember the roar of the crowd when I went through that first turn, and I felt like I was flying, and I came around and making a successful exchange. It was amazing. Then when we crossed and we actually did it without any scratches, the crowds went nuts, and it was the best feeling that you could have.
Although they were eventually bumped for the race, things were in motion that could not be undone. The following year, Leanne and Martha went to work, assembling 31 other women's teams and returned to the track, this time for a race of their own.
If there was ever a time when the proverbial super tanker got turned on a dime, that's it. And they worked very, very tirelessly, going to school, training, and also single-handedly visiting anybody who would listen to them every night.
There were roughly 11,000 people in the stands, and that was pretty amazing. I mean, we looked around and there was all the pomp and circumstance that you have ever seen at a professional sporting event was right there at the Bill Armstrong Stadium.
I remember walking on that track and being so proud of what we had put together and having tears in my eyes.
We had come a long way, you know? That saying, we've come a long way, baby. That's what it felt like on race day. Come on, girls, let's go riding.
Now, 25 years later, and with families of their own, Leanne and Martha reflect on their quarter-of-a-century-long legacy.
Hopefully this race is not just symbolic of the race, it's symbolic of what women can do.
I'm just glad it's still relevant, and I'm glad it still resonates with the college women, that it's something that they enjoy doing and helps them be the best that they can be.
You are a speed racer. Are you going to ride in Little 500 someday?
2012 edition of the Little Five. Gentlemen, let's turn our attention to some teams to watch here tonight.
Well, obviously Teeter's right. They're going for their third straight win, but how about these rumors and the stuff we're hearing about in the pits about Wing It?
Jay?
Well, Wing It is supposedly very, very fit. They've got two former riders, Sarah Fredrickson and Bree Kovac, who have been helping coach him. And I guess they're just dialed in, Dylan. They've been training all season. I saw them out on 446 yesterday. They look fit, fast, and ready.
Yep.
Delta Gamma as well, Kappa Gamma, and then Melanzano, one of the dark horses as well. As we take a look back to 2011, it was Teeter capturing their second consecutive Little 500. The big question in this is, how is Teeter going to replace Caitlin Van Kooten, who really a Hall of Fame caliber rider? Teeter, a wonderful team a season ago. There's a good look at Caitlin. How do you replace her?
Well, you don't replace somebody like that. You know, I think their team has established that they're going 4 strong this year as opposed to just 1, and they've shown that through ITTs and Team Pursuit and all during the Spring Series events, which they won handily. So look for Teeter to be a more balanced team, but also try to be aggressive this year.
They have 3 of their 4 riders returning. Caitlin, the only one not going to ride today. How much will that experience help them?
Well, experience is everything, and especially on a day like this where you have adverse conditions. So, you know, they can all band together as a team and really work on focusing together on winning again.
Teeter, back-to-back champions, trying to become the first women's team to win 3 straight in the Little Five. We caught up with Teeter and visited with them for today's big event.
Over the past 2 years, no women's Little 500 team has been as dominant as Teeter.
And in 2010, the women's Little 500 goes to Teeter. And down the stretch she comes, and Teeter will be champions of the Little Five in 2011.
Claiming consecutive victories in both 2010 and 2011, there's no question that Teeter is the favorite heading into 2012.
The last 2 years have been really incredible, and going into last year's race, we had really high hopes. Caitlin was really strong. The rest of the 3 of us were really strong.
Feeling on the podium is definitely like unreal. It's still now, like looking back on it, it's pretty incredible. It's pretty amazing. So it's like you work all year for that, and once it comes down to it, everything is totally worth it.
But the tremendous success of the past 2 years has been in part due to the dominance of former team captain Caitlin Van Kooten. Now, as the team moves ahead carrying on her legacy, it should be no surprise Teeter is still leading the pack.
I'm really proud of them to see how they've trained this whole year and how close they all still are.
Coming onto the team as a freshman with Caitlin as team captain, it was intense, but it was good. It was awesome. She pushed us really hard.
She wasn't going on rides by herself and practicing by herself all the time, even though she was really a powerful rider. She was taking us with her and making the whole team better.
All right, Mr. Mayor Jason Sonnenborn, realistically, who has a chance to beat Teeter tonight?
Well, you got to go with one of the perennial favorites. I mean, Kappa Alpha Theta, 4 wins, last one in 2003, and the fastest female on the track, Kathleen Chelminiak. She won ITTs and missing out. I mean, Teeter's going to have a tough time dealing with Kappa Alpha Theta today.
I know a team that you like, Delta Gamma.
Yeah, it's hard not to like Delta Gamma. You know, they have a deep team, and they're really looking forward to breaking this race apart right from the start.
Yeah, Delta Gamma, a perennial top 5 finisher. We caught up with the DJs as they got ready for this year's Little 5.
With the all but certain weather of springtime in the Midwest, many students head for the warm sun and sandy beaches of Florida. But for Delta Gamma, they spend spring break on their bikes right here in Bloomington.
Well, we always stay here for spring break. That's something that not every team does, but I think gives us a huge advantage in the springtime. That 1 week where we spend probably 6 to 8 hours a day at the track. I think by staying here for spring break, it really shows our dedication more than other teams that go away and don't stay in town.
Weighing the pros and cons of a Greek versus independent team is a 6-decade-long debate. And for Delta Gamma, their support not only comes from one another, but also from thousands of Delta Gammas past, present, and future.
different riding for a sorority, I think, than an independent team because you have over 100 girls, you know, behind you, even beside your teammates. So when it comes down to it, like, we're not just riding for ourselves, we're riding for our house and all the alumni as well.
There's so much support around you, and I mean, you live with all of your best friends, you ride with your best friends.
Especially within Delta Gamma, we just have such a long tradition and legacy of greatness with our team that it's really taken seriously compared to an independent team where you don't have as much leadership and support from older members or alumni riders as well.
Placing in the top 5 in 4 out of the last 5 years, Delta Gamma looks to take center stage on the track tonight.
So my freshman year, we finished 3rd. My sophomore year, we finished 3rd. So I'm thinking this year, it's about time to finish first.
All right, gentlemen, certainly a moist, damp, cold evening here in Bloomington. Will that affect these riders?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the riders have actually already quit because of their morale is so shattered by the rain. And in fact, the other riders that are actually really going to embrace the rain are going to break the race right from the start.
Jay, you think this helps or hinders any team more than the other?
It favors the teams that trained hard all winter, and it really helps the top teams. It tends to lead us not towards a pack sprint at the end, but more of a race with fewer teams in contention. And so I think the top teams, right, you're not going to see a dark horse as likely in these tough conditions.
All right, time to introduce the 4th member of our broadcast team, Jackie Moeller, who's down bundled up on the infield, and she caught up with one of the head coaches who's synonymous with the Little Five.
I'm in Teeter's pitch with Coach Chris Wojtowicz. Woj, today you come into this race with not only the yellow jersey, but the white and the green jersey as well. What do you feel your chances are in today's race?
We're good. We're excited. Everyone's feeling really good today in the warm-up. We got a 4-deep team. It's raining out. We ride in the rain all the time. And, yeah, I'm super excited. I think we can do it again. It'll be a tough race, though.
And how do you think the weather conditions are going to go track-wise?
I mean, it's going to be a little dicey in the turns. We might want to ride on the outside just a little bit to avoid the water and the puddles. But other than that, just stay up front and stay out of the bad positions.
And do you feel like there's a lot of pressure on your team coming into this race, being the 2-time defending champion?
Not really, because we keep putting up good results. So I feel like really confident in the girls. They seem really confident to me. So when they seem confident, and that makes it a whole lot easier to know that they're going to ride well.
All right, well, we wish you the best of luck in today's race.
Thank you, Jackie.
All right, thank you, Jackie. We're working our way toward dropping the flag and getting the 2012 edition of the Little 500 underway in prime time for the first time, the 25th running of the women's Little 5.
Still ahead, more of the 25th running of the women's Little 500 on HDNet. The 2012 Little 500 is sponsored by Schwinn, B97, Pizza X, Canary Cycleware, TIS College Bookstore, Blue Line, Coyote Logistics, Office of Women's Affairs, Underground Printing, Lamar Outdoor Advertising, and by Coca-Cola.
Good shot of the single-speed Schwinn bicycles, and the riders now arm in arm making their ceremonial lap around the track, and I would imagine this is when the emotions and the nerves really start to build.
Yeah, well, the good thing is the nerves are probably keeping them warm right now given this weather, so it's probably not a bad thing.
And they put so much energy into this, Rich. They've been training all season for this day. You know, they feel it out there on their skin, but deep down inside, they're amped and ready to go.
Speaking of other things you guys have felt on your skin, and as the women have as well, are some of the cinders that end up in your skin because crashes are every bit a part of this Little 500.
Oh, and there was a crash in the back of the field. Sometimes riders just overlap. Oh, and the cutter riders, we just had a crash.
And a pile up.
Huge crash. That's Phi Delta Theta, Sigma Chi. Cutters are down.
And we've got our first crash at the back of the pack.
Absolute carnage. We had a guy on his top tube here. Team number 30.
Oh, and a spill by Kappa Gamma.
They're not having quite the day they had hoped for there.
Oh, look at that, just get away, and some of the bumping and another little mishap.
Just shot all the way inside, and what really hurts about that is that you just hit your shoulder and your collarbone right on that cement gutter. Oh, that was not a good exchange. And we already have a crash. Yeah, it's really just chain reaction crashes, you know?
Oh, and that one you really can't see what happened.
Looked like somebody got stuck on the gutter there and went all the way to the outside.
Another rider still down. Will we see more or less crashes with a wet track?
Well, you know, I think there's two types of riders, those that have crashed and those that are gonna crash, so it's kind of unavoidable. You know, sometimes the weather conditions like this, because it does actually break the race up right away, and the riders are spread out, there's less opportunity for crashing. So it's hard to say on a day like this.
How about the way the wind is blowing right now?
Well, the wind's a big impact. When we showed up during warm-ups, you know, about 6 o'clock tonight, first time they raced under the lights, but when we showed up at 6 o'clock, the wind was howling. I think it was 15 to 20 miles per hour, and it's come down a little bit now after the rains moved through. But to answer your question, Rich, you know, when you see the wind, you see an echelon in cycling. Riders line up, not right behind the rider in front of them to draft, but off to the side, off to a pivot a little bit. And so I think it will definitely impact the race and cause for more crashes.
Well, it won't be a wind that you're really used to, because a lot of times you see it either coming into your face or on your back. This will almost be a crosswind the way it's blowing right now.
Yeah, that's right. The last couple of years we've actually had a headwind down the backside and a tailwind down the front side. And today, even though the wind's died down a little bit, it is actually blowing across the track. And that'll create what Jason was referring to, what's called an echelon, where the riders actually stack up, almost overlap each other, trying to get a little bit of a draft.
Last few sets of riders to make the ceremonial trek around the track, and the pageantry and this event just spectacular.
This is always a hard part of the race, because you're anxious, you want to get started, you want to stay warm, and especially on a day like this where you're just standing there waiting to do your parade lap.
And this is part of the pageantry of Little 500, right? To line up and to walk around the track with your teammates. What a lot of teams do is they start to warm up either when they're done, or their top rider immediately goes to the pit and does not do the full lap. So it's kind of a trick on how to warm up properly and also enjoy all the pageantry of the Little 500.
Well, there are a lot of tricks, from the idea of how you're going to do a warm up to what pit position you're going to pick.
Right, and that's always a big selection for the teams. Teeter this year, who's our three-time defending champion. I'm sorry, two. Getting a little bit ahead of myself. I need to slow down. But they have won the series events. They are the last pit on the front stretch. And the advantage there is they've got a whole pit to get a gap, and they're not doing an exchange right out of the turn. Kappa Alpha Theta chose a pit a little bit closer to the start-finish line, which is closer to the penalty box, which is also an advantage. So it's a little bit of what you're looking for in the pit selection.
Well, we heard Coach Woj earlier talk about that. The idea of weather being a factor in this race, none whatsoever, saying, look, we ride in weather all the time. You know, we're Indiana. I mean, we don't live in Malibu. This is Indiana. We get weather out here, and we ride through it.
Yeah, that's right. They don't care what the weather's like, whether it's good weather or bad weather. They're going to make the race hard no matter what.
Well, the Hardy fans and the backers of these teams won't let a few raindrops get in the way of their enthusiasm, and they didn't get up early this morning. They got up and got going, and they've been going full steam ahead for some time now.
Well, that's right. You know, this isn't just a 2-hour bike race. This is an entire weekend, and a weekend that a lot of the students and most of the student body have been preparing for weeks.
Time for our invocation. Here's Father Stan.
Let us pray. Loving source of all good, in giving us life, you have engaged us in living to the fullest the challenge of life. In this competition, these women engage themselves in confidence and humility. We invoke your name and ask that as you ask you to keep these women focused and keep them safe. Let them devote their efforts this evening and so come to the completion of the course, filled with confidence that they have run the good race aware that they are pleasing in your sight. We offer this prayer in your holy name. Amen.
Let us pause now to pay Father Stan, and that answered our question in our production meeting. We had so many people who've been around the Little Five forever. We said, "What's Father Stan's last name?" And everybody stopped, paused, and looked at one another and said, "He's always just been Father Stan."
The one and only. Definitely a big part of the race. You know, there's so much preparation, such a huge staff. The commitment from the students and the student body union is just amazing.
Your caps. We welcome to Armstrong Stadium two-time Grammy Award winner, Jacobs School of Music professor and performer extraordinaire. Please greet Sylvia McNair, and we'll now have our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Sylvia McNair delighting the crowd as the 25th running of the women's Little 500 goes prime time.
And we get ready for racing. We present
You see some of the women there wearing glasses with the clear lenses. Perfect for a day like this. However, I have a feeling after the first 10 laps, nobody's going to be wearing glasses because of all the dirt and the cinders that will be flying up.
Well, it's a good kind of test in eyewear, isn't it, Dylan? If you've got shaded lenses, it's not a day for those. So if you can find some good clear lenses, that's the way to go.
Yep. Straight, no chaser.
Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still shining bright through the sycamores for me. The new mown hay sends all its fragrance from the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, Then I long for my Indiana home, back home again in Indiana. And it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still shining bright through the sycamores for me. The new moon haze sends all its fragrance from the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, then I long for my Indiana home.
Straight out Tracy.
All right, we'll step aside and come back with the start of the 25th Women's Little 500 after this timeout on HDNet.
I know that in life things just don't happen automatically and you have to put a lot of effort into them. So I think this is a good example of how that works.
Teaching you to be resilient, you know, to rely on your teammates and trust your teammates, it's definitely given me skills that I think will carry over into the real world, whether it be in the workforce or raising a family and things like that.
I've learned so much from my teammates and how to be a good leader, all on our own really. And I feel like that's an experience that I couldn't have found anywhere else.
Really just learning what motivates people and how to get the most out of them, I think is a valuable skill in any leadership situation. So getting that out of something I enjoy as much as a bike race has been a truly incredible experience.
All right, gentlemen, we are working our way, a little pace lap here. Pace car out in front, just about to get ready to start racing.
Yeah, the butterflies are starting to turn in these ladies right now. The first couple laps, there's 3 of these pace laps. They start out, and really they just want to shake down their bikes, their race bikes, make sure that they're good. Then that third lap, they start to pick up pace. You'll see the pace car speed up as they approach and get that green flag.
This is really a part of the race that takes after motor racing in some ways, where they have this kind of parade lap and they come around, they wait for the green flag. The Little 500 mimicking some of the elements of motor racing in which this race is inspired by a little bit.
We're in racing country as we look at our rows. Teeter, Delta Gamma, and Army, the first 3.
Right, you've got some of the favorites up front, Teeter and Delta Gamma, obviously strong qualifications runs, which leads to how these ladies line up. Teeter and Delta Gamma, 2 tops, and they're in the front row. And then Kappa Alpha Theta in that second row. We talked about them earlier with 4 wins, the second most, and obviously a very good chance today. Kappa Kappa Gamma, the women's team with the most victories, 5 for Kappa Kappa Gamma, lines up in row 3.
Melanzana with the dominant rider, but will there be enough help?
Right, Dana Vandergenoot coming from Teeter. She's won on Teeter, and now she started a team. Rich, you do a better job of pronouncing it than I do, and I'll let you take that in the future. Melanzana, right?
Yep, and then Wing It. So Wing It with 4 very strong riders, yet no dominant rider.
Right, and their qualifications run has them back there a little bit farther, right? So they're going to need to do a good job of being aggressive early and getting up front.
And that speaks to some of the strategy of what different coaches like to do. Do you like to try to go all out early and get a big lead on the field, or do you just try to stay close and try to win it in the end with a sprint?
Well, a lot of these races have a tempo or you know, kind of a way that they develop, especially in a day like this with poor weather conditions. The riders up front are going to be working to establish themselves in their position and stay out of any danger, you know, race crashes that happen quite often in the first 10 to 20 laps.
The rain has eased up, and the wind has eased up a little bit as well from what we had about an hour ago.
You see Wilkie back there in row 9. That's actually the team that won the first Women's Little 500, Wilkie Sprint in 1988.
Some of the teams a little bit further back in the pack.
And a full field today, Rich. You know, a full field for the women. When they first started, you know, I think it was hard to get 33 teams, but it just goes to show the tradition in the women's Little 500 today in the 25th running with a full field. All 11 rows filled, 33 teams.
That's an interesting note you put that Wilkie won the first women's race. It was Kappa Alpha Theta who the year before, 87, almost qualified for the men's race. You wonder, how did they not win the race the next year? They had a little bit of an error with regard to which person to watch. They finished second, just 8 seconds behind, and said they ended up looking at the wrong person in a green shirt, not realizing that this was going to be the end of the race.
And that can happen, as we've seen in years past. You know, Little 500 is a lot of fun, and it's also a lot to keep track of. You know, we're on this quarter-mile cinder track, and teams are lapped, teams are up, and you've got to stay with your head in the game the entire time.
All right, let's welcome back in Jackie Moeller, who's down there trackside with a little report on how the riding conditions are right now, Jackie.
Hi, guys. Right now, it's just sprinkling, so the riders won't have too much difficulty riding today. But also, what's going to make this weather so wonderful is that it's going to make the track nice and moist and make for a fast race later today.
Thank you, Jackie. And we will put the yellow one away and wave the green flag, and the 25th running of the women's Little 500 is underway in Bloomington.
And Teeter right off to the start, not wasting any time, right? Throwing it down pretty hard right off the start. We're going to get a lap time on this. Delta Gamma sitting second. They're in black. And in purple, that's Alpha Gamma Delta sitting third.
Now keep your eyes peeled for history's sake. We've seen some crazy things happen at the starter races here in the Little 5 on both the women's and the men's side. And the DGs move out into the front of the pack momentarily.
Oh, and a strong pull through there by AGD. That was Emma Coughlin that did the first lap for Teeter. Casey Dukes for Delta Gamma. You see AGD in purple now in the front. Kappa Alpha Theta has already moved up, and they're in second.
You'll see the riders are kind of looking around, trying to establish their position at the front and stay out of danger, but at the same time, they don't want to do more work than they need to. So it's a little bit of a balancing act.
And the wind has all but disappeared. Flag's hanging limp on the pole right now. We're going to have a clean first 2 laps of this Little 5. Kappa Kappa Gamma, Jacqueline Stevens out in front.
You know, as Jackie mentioned, the track conditions are actually pretty favorable for a very fast race, especially with not a lot of wind, and the track just gets nice and smooth and packed down.
Hey, gents, you remember some of the races we've had here in the afternoon when the weather was very nice. The dust when the wind kicks up can be an issue.
Right, it's almost harder to ride on a soft track because the cinders kind of get loose and it's less like this concrete kind of hard formed substance. So actually the track tends to be a little bit faster when it's wet from the night before. The puddles don't help at all, but these women are out there persevering. So you see Kappa Kappa Gamma. No, that's Kappa Alpha Theta, I'm sorry, coming through on first. Kappa Kappa Gamma in red now pulling through.
And that was Kath Jominiak on the bike. And she able to give up that position. So Dylan, as you had said, the riders happy to take the lead position and then drop back and not do quite as much work.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because you want to stay at the front. You want to take your turn and pull off so that you're not pulling too much, but then you got to figure out a way to sneak back in the first couple of riders.
And we're seeing a comfortable pace here really early. I'm not seeing, people aren't riding too hard right now or pushing it off the front. They're really kind of working together and rotating pulls on the front.
Yeah, you can see the crosswind picking up, and you'll see the riders starting to fan out. If you look at the flag, the wind is picking up just a little bit. And actually, that can cause the riders to overlap wheels and actually increase the opportunity for a crash.
And here's where it starts to get dicey. We had those first couple laps, no exchanges. Now you can see riders starting to get antsy, starting to think about exchanges. It just causes a lot of movement in the pack.
And we've also had our first team get lapped, and that can be a little bit dangerous as well coming up if you're not paying attention as riders separate.
We'll see Alpha Gamma Delta in purple here coming in for a bike exchange. The riders just need to touch inside their pit.
Shannon O'Neill on the bike now for AGD.
Yeah, and Shannon's going to want to like really punch it right away so she can get back onto the back of the field right there without using too much energy.
5 laps scored, 5 of 100.
Melanzana cycling coming up for a little exchange. She's off the front. And that like Dana Vandergrude, their #1 rider, getting on second. A little bit of strategy there, not starting their top rider, but letting somebody else work it out. That's Army women in green coming in for a bike exchange. They qualified well at third.
The Army will hand it off to Aline Ottenwaller, International Studies major from Fort Wayne.
And that was an example of a bike-to-bike change where they actually aren't using the same bike. Each team has 2 bikes that they use among the 4 riders.
Right, that's one of the unique things about Little 500, right? It's not like every rider has their own bike to specs. The teams each get 2 stock bikes, and they can change seat heights throughout the day if they need to. But more times than not, people end up riding bikes with different that they're less comfortable on and compromising with their teammates. So it's really just a good lesson in teamwork. Keeping it simple at the Little 500.
Jason, do you set the seat at a certain level in training and keep it that way? So this is where the seat will be by the time we get into the race?
You try to get used to it, and you work out that compromise with the teammates. Sometimes it means putting padding on the bottom of the shoes to increase if the seat height is too high for you. You need to make up for it. So you see a lot of riders sometimes with raised shoes. You'll see that from the cutters tomorrow. Kevin DePass does that, for example. But it's a lot of compromise. You got to work 2 bikes for 4 teammates, right?
And we heard that from a number of these athletes about the life lessons learned in being part of the Little 500 event.
Yeah, you can't do it on your own. You need a great team. It helps to have a good house, whether it's a dormitory or sorority on campus. These women all have good support networks behind them.
Yeah, and the network is really what adds to the experience because they have the opportunity to learn from the teams that have done it before them. Really understand, okay, here are the things that actually matter on race day.
You see Winged on the front going with the tall sock look, you know, helping with a little bit of warmth, I think. You got to keep those legs warm on cold race days.
Well, yeah, it's rare. You know, there's actually a couple of women that are wearing leg warmers, which could potentially prove beneficial later on in the race because you're not burning up as much energy in these early laps.
Got to keep the legs warm. You see Gamma Phi Beta pulling through on the front. You just see a lot of parity this year in the women's race. Full field, and a lot of the teams just taking turns on the front right now.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised to see Teeter riding as far back as they are right now. They might be getting ready to do an exchange. But this is the time of the race in the first 20 laps that gets really nerve-wracking.
How come?
Well, they haven't. Nobody's really racing yet. They're all kind of looking at each other, trying to figure out what's happening, who's going to be in the front. The first attack of the race hasn't actually happened yet.
Good Kappa Delta on the front, a team that's won in the 2000s for the first time.
You know, you see some of the riders kind of tapping their heads, signaling to the coach in the pit, like, okay, I want to come in for an exchange on the next lap, or you know, let me stay out 5 more laps.
I'm sorry, I think that was Kyle Omega. Team number 8,
They do pass it off. Caitlin Pitts now on the bike for Kai Omega.
You see a little red, white, and blue there for Gamma Phi Beta. I don't know if you noticed that, but their shorts, I walked down there before the race today, and they just said that they are representing America. They got those colors handed to them by the Student Foundation, and they're going with it. Red, white, and blue, Star-Spangled Banner.
Jason Sonnenborn, one of the great things about you is there is no square inch of this Little 500 that you don't cover during the world's greatest college weekend.
Well, and speaking of waving the flag, it looks like they're getting ready to come in to do an exchange. Right there on the backside there.
And Rich, as you know, a lot of the good information is shared at some of our establishments around town. And the nights before the race, I ran into a Velo News reporter there the other night. We were kind of sharing notes. So we're trying to get up to speed on this year's Women's Little 500.
Back to the point you guys were kicking around earlier, I think one of the neat parts about this is how interested the alums are in the success of their team and how willing they are to share knowledge, information, and help people, not just with the Little 5, but with life in general.
And that's what really makes for strong teams, is kind of handing down the information from year to year. Chris Wojtowicz on Teeter does that, Kappa Alpha Theta, Bill Noss for Kappa Kappa Gamma. They just continue with the handing down of knowledge and preparing the teams year after year.
All right, while we have a moment, let's go downstairs to Jackie.
I'm here on the infield with Martha and Leanne, the creators of the Women's Little 500. Martha, how excited are you to be back on the 25th running of the Little 500?
Well, it's fabulous. It's just so exciting. It makes me feel like I felt when it was the first women's race back in 1988. The same excitement. Although the weather was better in '88, for sure.
I bet. And Leanne, what does it mean for you to come back to this running of the Little 500 and see what it's become since the very first race?
This is one of the best feelings that you can have. I remember the day that we had the race. We may not have won the race, but walking off the field saying, look at everything that Martha and I and all the other people have put together to put together a Women's Little 500. And coming back 25 years later to see this and see that it's grown and gotten better and truly evolved, I can't wait for the next 25 years.
Well, as a past Little 500 rider, I can't thank the two of you enough for helping start the women's race, and thank you so much for talking with me. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, what a wonderful event, and you think now 25 years, you can't even imagine this weekend without the women's race on Friday.
No, you can't. It's such a awesome event. And it's also oftentimes way more exciting than the men's event because you got a shorter amount of time to deal with. They pack these action-packed finishes in. We've seen it throughout the wins in the 2000s. A lot of times they are sprint victories.
I've definitely seen the sprints. Last year was an exception when Caitlin Van Kooten and Teeter lapped everybody, but prior to that, we would go really down the stretch and trying to figure out around those last few turns who was going to win it.
Right, Pi Beta Phi, Kappa Delta, Kappa Kappa Gamma in the 2000s, all sprint victories.
I just did a count. We're 15 laps into a 100-lap race, and we're already down to 18 teams on the lead lap.
Teeter right there in yellow.
Kappa Alpha Theta on their wheel. And that's Kath Chelminiak on the bike for Kappa Alpha Theta. I believe she started the race.
She did.
As I look up, I see they're on lap 15. That's a big first set for Kath right out of the gate.
And that, you know, one of the things we had talked about last night is how many laps can she do? Now, there are a number of exchanges that have to be done rule-wise in women's Little 5 and on the men's side as well. That's really rarely ever been an issue that a number of exchanges don't get done. With Chelminiak, you wonder how many laps will she do for her team today?
Sure, she's obviously proven a lot of strength. And Rich, we don't know the answer to that yet. I think she'll ride a big first set and then rest a lot of the race and let her teammates start to pick it up because they're no slouches themselves. They've ridden in Little 5s before, and I think they've got a lot of confidence in the team, as do the Teeter girls. The Teeter girls all finished in the top 25 in individual time trials, which is remarkable, and then came back in one team pursuit. So they're really balanced, and what I see happen right now is Emma Coughlin's on the bike for Teeter, and I think they're queuing off of each other a little bit, and I think they're going to ride similar first sets between Teeter and Kappa Alpha Theta.
One of the things to remember is that the riders that aren't on their bikes racing right now actually have to really stay focused on staying warmed up.
Oh, you've always got to be ready, as we've seen, guys. I mean, the bike goes down so quickly, and when a wreck happens, you've got to hop off your bike and get to where your teammate is really fast and start from there. So you've always got to keep your head in the game. Good point, Dylan.
17 laps scored. A very clean start to this race.
Yeah, you got to be thankful for that. I mean, that kind of really goes to show how far this race has evolved. I mean, there has been no wrecks. You see Kyle Megan coming in for an exchange on the outside, dark blue, and Kappa Delta kind of a lighter blue on the pole position there in the front. Kappa Delta always a strong team. Again, picking up a win.
Kyle Megas, Caitlin Dawson, the junior on the bike.
Teeter riding comfortably in second, Wing It in third, Kappa Alpha Theta in fourth, Kappa Kappa Gamma in fifth, their team number 7, and Delta Gamma team number 2. We've got a heck of a pack right now. We've got everybody we wanted to see still together.
And Delta Gamma third the past 2 years. And there's our first crash. Women from Army went down first.
Looks like Army women. And that is Melanzana, the team in light orange. Looked like they got caught up in that.
Injured Army rider.
Well,
is Eileen Ottenweiler.
I hope. Let's see what happens here. She
overlapped the wheel.
And then took out the Melanzana rider. When you overlap, Dylan, as you know, that front wheel is going to move.
Yeah, it's just really hard to recover once you lose your balance in that direction. Right now, she's just got to try to regain her composure. Hopefully, one of her teammates has come over and taken her bike.
Well,
what's the rule with that?
Well, the next rider needs to start where she's come out, and I'm glad she's okay. And the Army has not got the bike to her yet, which has me concerned. Eileen got up, I think, for the safety of the other riders and got off the track, but she didn't keep going.
Lorraine Solaski is getting out there with the bike right now, and the scary part about Ottenweiler's wreck is that the next bike over her really ran over her shoulder and almost on her neck area as well, so good to see her up and being tended to by the staff. So Army going to get back into the race right here with Solaski on the bike.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, I think that's just that's the end of their race as far as an opportunity for the podium.
Yeah, now they're probably a lap down, and we need to pay attention to that. But now I see the leaders coming by. So, you know, Eileen was obviously a little shaken up right there. If she had her head if she had her head to her and she wasn't injured at all, I think she would have got up and got that bike moving. Because if you do have a broken bike, you try to get on it and you try to get it to the pit. You try to keep progress in the race.
22 of 100, and something we had discussed when the rain was really coming down. It's still a little soggy. The wind has died down a bit. Is that with these weather conditions, this race can blow up early?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think how cold it is, the wind, the rain, it really breaks down the morale. I'm actually surprised that we're down to such a small group so early in the race. Of course, we had our first crash, but it didn't really interfere with the race that much.
Teeter, Delta Gamma, Wing It in there as well.
And guys, I'm really amazed. As far as I can tell, all of the first riders are still out there for each team. I haven't seen an exchange from Teeter yet, from Delta Gamma yet, or Kappa Alpha Theta with the famous Ghost Exchange. So those women are out there, and we're on lap. They've done 22 laps now. It's amazing, these first sets.
Teeter looks to be rustling around down in the pit.
Yeah, it looks like they're getting ready to do an exchange here.
Lauren Gowdy getting loose, getting her bike for Teeter.
You know, with the riders riding 3 and 4 abreast, you can tell that they're not racing right now. They're just riding.
Yeah, they're eating up laps, and who that favors is Kath Shelminiak for Kappa Alpha Theta, who is one missing out this year. So Kappa Alpha Theta's got to be really happy with this first set.
Because if you're a team that's willing to come down to the final couple laps and turn it into a sprint,
you're fine to wait until the end.
Absolutely.
That's right.
When you have the strongest rider, your strategy changes a little bit. You feel like you don't need to do a whole lot during the race. You feel like you can kind of wait till the end. And Kat's coming in for a big exchange right now. We'll try to get her on camera. Kappa Gamma on the front. Kappa Alpha Theta's got a gap. Here comes, it looks like a bike exchange for Kappa Alpha Theta.
So Shelminiak gets a breather. And Rachel Method, their second rider, gets on.
Kappa Alpha Theta is down. We don't have it on. Let's see if we can get this. Kappa Alpha Theta has dropped to the bike.
Oh, no.
And that's going to put him back a bit. So Method couldn't get it started, so maybe some nerves by the freshman.
Well, you know, she hadn't been in the race. She'd been warming up for the first 22 laps.
And this is her second race. Her older sister had ridden for Kappa Alpha Theta. She's got a big gap to close right now. She's got not quite a half lap, but a quarter lap that Kappa Alpha Theta is down.
Another look at what happened.
Right, let's see if we can, in these wet conditions.
She just slipped off the pedal.
Right, not clipless pedals, right? She's just got flat pedals with tennis shoes on, and she went right over top of that pedal.
Yeah, and with the rain, it just makes the pedals really slippery.
So you see Teeter knows that now, right? And I think that's Emma Coughlin still on the bike with a huge first set, just drilling it, taking advantage of this Kappa Alpha Theta mishap.
And Teeter's going to put the hammer down right now and pass it on to Gowdy, I believe.
And Gowdy's got races under her legs. She's raced for 2 years now. This is her 3rd race. Look for her to continue to go with this and work with Wing It, Delta Gamma, and the other teams to put the hurt on Kappa Alpha Theta.
Teeter does the pass off. Remember, this Teeter team has won the last 2 races, trying to become the first women's team to win 3 straight. 3 of their 4 riders were victorious a year ago.
So they've got all the experience they need. They know what it's like to hurt the field. And you can see some high fives there for Emma. And really, I haven't seen a whole lot of sets that pan out to 25-lap sets in the women's race. That's an incredible effort there by Emma Coughlin.
Well, you know, I think what we're seeing happen right now is the race is actually getting blown completely apart by Teeter.
Oh, and they love this, right? We were talking about a pack sprint with Theta, and then we see a mishap. That's the one thing you cannot win with when you're a sprinter kind of dominated team, and you see Kappa Gamma now sitting on the wheel with Teeter, just stringing it out. We'll see if we get any help from the Kappas here. A 5-time champion, certainly they've got a lot of pop as well.
Delta Gamma did a quick exchange in black. Another exchange by...
Well, that's our Wing It team, so let's, kind of take note. Wing It, I have them at about a 1/4 lap down, right? One of our favorites coming in. So this is quickly, and the conditions impacted that with the slip off the pedal, but this has quickly changed the pace of this race.
Yeah, see, I mean, now they're all single file. They're going as hard as they can. They're actually racing now.
We've graduated from riding to racing, Mr. Casey.
That's right. Well, that's what I meant earlier, that the race has a rhythm. You know, they start, they kind of figure out who's doing what.
Another muff exchange for Army. They had the mishap with the fall down, and now they can't get the exchange done clean.
Yeah, they're just having, a lot of bad luck in this race today. The front is kind of moved through. It's not raining, but you can see the flags are really starting to blow. And that's actually going to be to Teeter's advantage, because since they're off the front.
Okay, so you see AGD in the group, and what we've got is we've got Wing It Cycling. She did an incredible job of closing that gap. We'll try to get that rider identified. That's anyway, incredible job of closing that gap. Wing It's back on the lead group.
Incredible start here in prime time. 25th running of the women's Little 500 here on HDNet.
The 25th running of the women's Little 500 on HDNet. We'll be back in a moment.
I think the legacy I want this year is the 25th running is just to continue.
I'm older, so I can come back and watch my ride.
That's for a legacy that I would like to leave back, is just a continuation of family culture that is
definitely.
Fifth anniversary of the women's Little 500 race in front for the first time tonight. Teeter, your 2-time 34 of 100. Lee alongside the U.S. Postal team. We call him James Donmore, 4-time participant in the Little 500. Let's go downstairs. We have not just one Moeller and Jackie, but a pair of Moellers. Jackie?
I'm in the Wing It pit right now with Melissa Moeller. She just got done doing her first set of 25 laps. Melissa, how did your first set feel?
It felt pretty good. I was able to sit in for a while, but it was a lot longer than I expected it to be. And no one really wants to pull out there, so the pace is a little bit slow and it speeds up periodically. But people are riding pretty aggressively. There are a lot of rubbed wheels and elbow shoving and all that.
All right, well, you guys are riding a smart race right now. Keep it up. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Jackie.
And you saw Teeter get a little gap there. It looks like Lauren Gowdy's going to bring that in for an exchange. Looks like a bike exchange for Teeter.
Indeed, she will do that. Fade over and hand it off to Susan Laurie, senior from West Lafayette.
And Susan's also got some experience in the little 500. She comes in with 2 years under her belt and 22nd place in ITTs. They're just a strong, well-rounded team. And we've whittled this race down to, I think we've come to 4 teams. You see Delta Gamma on the front, you see Kappa Kappa Gamma behind them in red, Wing It Cycling, team number 11, and Teeter, our defending champion in yellow. They're all in the lead lap.
And the other 2 riders right there, Melanzana and Alpha Gamma Delta, a lap down.
I was just going to say, it's what makes this race so complicated is that very early on the race comes down to just a few teams, and all the other teams are spread all over the track. We're only 37 laps into the race.
And you see Susan Laurie opening up a little bit gap there for Teeter. She also thought the pace was a little bit soft, and she's picking up the tempo. You see people kind of dangling off the back right now. You see that Melanzana rider just slipping back.
Yeah, and she kind of flicked her elbow saying, okay, you know, come on, you take a pull now. Let's share some of the workload up here.
Now, speaking of workload, charged with the responsibility of keeping order of the chaos of 33 hard-riding teams, Mike Howard runs a tight ship. We walk the track with the man himself before tonight's race.
Much like the Indianapolis 500, race stewards of the Little Five fly below the radar, making sure the races run fairly and, most importantly, safely. For the past 37 years, Mike Howard has been chief of them all.
What you're looking at now is turn 3 and 4, which is the west end of the stadium. The track is cinders. They put water and chemicals and try to bind it down as tight as possible, but it's loose on top. And so when the riders on race day come down this backstretch at full speed and go into the turn, they don't slow down very much.
Oh, and there was a crash at the back of the field. Overlap.
One of the things that we are looking at this part of the track, we have our assistants in the tower just through the turn, and they're watching to make sure not only if there's an accident to put out the yellow flag.
There goes the yellow.
But did somebody do something that they should not have done that caused that accident, which causes a penalty against them?
Another little mishap.
Behind us right now is turn 4. This is a very busy place today because as teams come out of turn 4, most of the good teams are going into their pit to do exchanges every 10, 15, 20 laps. When they do these exchanges, they're cutting to the outside. It creates a lot of opportunities for crossing wheels and accidents if they don't pay attention. Qualification day, we have judges here to make sure the teams complete their exchange in the very precise area. If they don't, it's a foul, and they have 3 opportunities to qualify for the race today. This is a very busy place today. Everything has to be set back for safety purposes, and that's about the tour of the interesting places on the track.
Takes an army of individuals to pull this off. One of the neat parts about this event is this is a student-run event.
And it's just fantastic. You see Jordan Bailey up there. He's been a student. Now he is the race director. And so much work goes in from the Student Foundation. All volunteers dedicating their time, and the more senior members become steering committee. And they're just kind of building those leadership skills that not only help them put on a event like Little 500, but help them in future with careers and families.
Teeter and Kappa Kappa Gamma on the lead. Teeter going to come in to make an exchange and hand the bike back to Laura Hutchinson, who was second in the ITT.
Teeter gets up. I think the other teams are a little bit reluctant to put down any right now and put it to Teeter. Teeter got back up after the exchange really easy.
Yeah, you can see the riders kind of talking to each other. You know, they're establishing, okay, together. We'll see how this race develops. We still have 60 laps to go.
And we talked earlier a lot about Kath jumping now. Second is back on the track. Team number 30, that's Alpha Phi. We'll kind of see what happens. Alpha Phi looks like behind somebody, and interesting how took out the front.
Yeah, yellow flag out now for the rider. Now Phi just the wrong place, the wrong time on that one, and they'll take Gessling, a freshman, will
I think her hands are up. I'm not so sure they've got a back to somebody goes down, your team, and Alpha Phi's so they're just going to start losing some laps.
Yeah, now they'll sprint across the infield, and a rider trailing as well. And there's the lead 3-4 teams right now in this 25th running, and we're back to the green flag.
Yeah, we're back to green because the bike is off the track. You see Delta Gamma on the front now, still focused. Yeah, she looks really comfortable on the bike, that Delta Gamma rider.
Kelsey Phillips.
And she's got some little 500s under her legs too. So Delta Gamma returning a lot of strength.
Yeah, Phillips, a junior, her third little 5. But can anybody defeat Teeter? Back-to-back champions in the little 500.
Well, we really execute the plan that they had from the start, which was to establish themselves in front of the race right away, stay out, and take any opportunity that they get to break the race apart. And so far,
the rain and the wind.
Well, and I saw Kappa Gamma there pull through, but not really putting forth too tough of an effort. They pulled through, they pulled off to the side, and now you see Teeter kind of back on the front. So their strategy is really to kind of let Teeter ride this race, to catch a draft off Teeter and hope they pull him to the last lap and something happens.
And Mother Nature's strategy might be to keep us in the rain for this entire race, because that front looks like it's not going to just go west to east and get out of here. It looks like it's going to do a little northeast on us to keep us in the wind and the wetness, and we're in lap 46 of 100, almost to the halfway point, and the wind is starting to really pick back up again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Teeter or maybe some of the other teams can take advantage of the wind. You can see the flags just blowing straight across the track, which is going to create this crosswind effect for the front stretch and the back stretch.
And it causes separation. It makes a more dominant team. It gives them an advantage, right? Because it's harder to catch a draft with that crosswind. So look for the crosswind to help Teeter a little bit. I think from a team depth perspective, there's no question that Teeter's the top team. Kappa Gamma is riding a great race right now, staying completely out of trouble, but not able to quite pull at the pace that Teeter is. But again, riding a smart race, it doesn't always come down to who can pull the most laps. It comes down to who's on the front, at lap 100.
Yeah, there's only one lap that really matters.
And Wing It tucked really, kind of closely in there behind Teeter, catching a draft. They've ridden a really smart race so far.
Yeah, Wing It with those 4 very solid riders we've referenced a couple times. No dominant rider, and one of the questions for Wing It is if it does come down to 3 or 4 teams at the end of this race, who will take the bike at the end?
Yeah, that's right. And will it be a sprint, or will somebody try to attack with 3 or 4 laps to go?
And sometimes that wild card factor just does not hurt, Rich. They've got some young riders and some older riders, and they do have experience. Tom Schwegler has been helping out Team Wing It. He was the early coach of the Thetas, and knows how to win this race. So look for Wing It. They've got some experience, and they are sitting in there in a really nice position today. Jumping around trying to stay warm, huh? He kind of knows her set's coming.
Wing It going to do a little exchange.
So in these conditions, you've really got to watch every exchange. You see 2 teams lining up there, and Wing It's just out on the track early, not actually setting up for an exchange.
You can wing it, and then sometimes you have to wait for it, Laura Miller. Abigail Legg, a great story. An Olympic figure skater, an alternate for the Torino Olympics. Tried to take some of that figure skating prowess and bring it out to the cinder track.
And Melissa Moeller, she was in the top 5 in individual time trial, so she may be their pick to finish it off if they need to pick a sprinter.
Halfway through the race.
There's that winging exchange.
Laura Miller, freshman econ major from Indianapolis. So Wing It, one of the teams in contention here tonight.
Wing It, a new team out here, but a team that's got a lot of experience in their pit, certainly riding well.
Well, we talked about some of the names. You know, 25 years ago, Tom Schwegler coached the pioneering Kappa Alpha Theta team right here on this track. Some 3 decades later, he's got all the experience underneath his belt. Can he pull out a little magic tonight with Wing It? Here's a piece on the Wing It team.
Perhaps no team personifies the independent spirit more than Wing It.
Well, 2006, Christy and Jamie Hewitt decided they wanted to get in on the awesome tradition that is the Little 500. And so they named the team Wing It because they had no clue what they were doing at the time, and they were just going to go out and wing it.
The name stuck, and 6 years later, we're a contending team.
Go, 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 go!
But the just winging it mentality couldn't be further from the truth. As one of the only teams with no alternate riders, Wing It's 4 solo members must depend on the other 3, and only the other 3 to get the job done.
We are all that we have, so we don't have a plan B.
Yeah, everybody feels the equal weight of responsibility. Everybody knows that every day they show up to track, it's a day to be there and put work in, because there's not somebody else to fall back on and say, well, she'll take that lap, because nobody's going to be there to take it. It might not be a bad idea for one more from you to me when you're ready, so I can practice the jump on that pedal.
What I look for in a team is a team with some passion, and I kind of mimic something that Bob Knight said many years ago. He said, don't give me a team with the desire to win, give me a team with the desire to prepare to win. And so I've been fortunate to see athletes in the previous teams I've coached, and certainly in the Wing It team, especially this year.
Go on! Go all the way through, baby! Go, 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 go! Good girl, good girl, go, go!
As senior team captain and former 2006 Olympic alternate figure skater, Abigail Legg takes the lead. She draws on a lifetime of athletic competition.
Coming from my figure skating background, where it was essentially a full-time job and I had all my time to dedicate it to, and then I came to school to do the Little 500, and I only had, a certain amount of time each day with my studies to do Little 500, that discipline carried right over. You don't get to redo yesterday, so you have to make each day count, because April 20th comes way too fast every year. Thank goodness.
As an athlete, she knows how to go out and nail it when it's time. And then as a coach, she brings that to being a veteran on the team, so she really knows how to talk to the rookies, how to motivate them, how to explain things and break it down. She's a big help.
A senior majoring in informatics.
Now can Wing It dethrone Teeter and capture the first Little 500 under the lights.
I tell you, one of the teams trying to prevent that today, Rich, is Kappa Kappa Gamma. Jackie's down there in the pit with their coach Bill Noss. Kappa Kappa Gamma with 5 wins, and Bill Noss with a legendary career for Sigma Alpha Epsilon. Jackie, what do you have?
Hi guys, I'm in Kappa Kappa Gamma's pits right now with Coach Bill Noss. Bill, right now you guys are riding a smart race and you're riding in the first 3 positions. How does it feel right now?
Well, it feels excellent. I do want my girl, oh, there she is. She's back on Teeter's wheel. I like that. We're just trying to ride good positions, and we're just trying to get to the final lap, to be quite honest with you. It's a decent pace race today, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. So we're doing all right. We just want to ride good wheels and make it to that last lap and roll the dice.
Awesome. And if it comes down to a sprint, who do you want on the bike from your team on the end?
Whoever's riding the best today.
We'll make
that decision at the end.
That's a good strategy. Good luck.
Well, thank you, Jackie.
Bill had a great career here in Little 500, and what he said was he had a lot of the talent, but he didn't have the knowledge when he was racing. So one of the reasons he coaches Kappa Kappa Gamma is just to help prepare them for this race, so you can go in with some knowledge. Bill set the lap record for the fastest time he ever recorded at Phil Armstrong Stadium. I think it was between 30 and 31 seconds, but he could absolutely fly on the bike, and he's been a big part of the 5 wins for Kappa Kappa Gamma. But interesting, you know, what he said. He said, let's go on feel and let's see who's riding the best towards the end of the race. I don't have that picked out yet.
They're the 4 riders from Kappa Kappa Gamma. Megan Kruber, Jacqueline Stevens, Emma Losif, and Catherine Swain. Senior, a junior, and a pair of sophomores.
You know, I really think this is Teeter's race to win. Of course, because the other riders are happy to just wait until the last lap. They're not really interested in trying to break it apart or trying to crack off Teeter. And so it's kind of interesting to see this strategy being played out right now. We're a little bit past the halfway mark in the race, down to 4 teams on the lead lap.
Well, if, you know, all of the things that ITTs, you know, really mean something, and you certainly feel that they do.
Well, they're a good indication coming into this. And
you think that Jominiak was the winner of that, but Lisa Hutchinson was second for Theta. So you just think if you're Theta and you're right there, all right, well, we'll take our chances, and we'll take our chances for the sprint at the end.
Right. Sure. Lisa Hutchinson for Teeter, she can certainly sprint. You know, it's kind of some perennial favorites there in Kappa Kappa Gamma. Teeter's a young up-and-coming team, right, with two wins, but not a lot of success in the early years of the women's Little 500. So.
No, you're right. Teeter just, you know, 3 victories overall, the last 2, and then prior to that, another one in 05. Yeah, Dylan, back to your line earlier, we were just riding and then we raced for a bit. It feels like right now, lap 59, we're back to just riding a little bit with the teams out in front.
Yeah. You know, the race is just has a natural rhythm, and we're at the point where they're just taking a little bit of a break, assessing each other, who looks good, who doesn't look good. Essentially just riding out the clock right now, waiting for that last lap.
Yeah, you see Teeter and Kappa Kappa Gamma really just kind of comfortable on the front. We're at 59 laps down, and they're just kind of eating up laps right here in the middle.
See Woj, their coach, talking to people in the infield there, talking to his other riders, telling them to stay warm, get ready for an exchange.
Wing It right there in the mix as well as Delta Gamma, who finished 3rd the last 2 Little 500s.
Chris Wojtowicz, he's always in the middle of it, Dylan. I rode with Chris Wojtowicz a lot, and he won the race in 2000. He's talking, or you know, he's also a fantastic dancer. So he likes to kind of break it down here after these Teeter wins. You never know what to expect.
When I said the mayor, Jason Sonnenborn, leaves no square inch of Little 500
That's
not
right.
covered. I mean, we got down to who dances best after the Little 5.
That's right. Well, that's why Chris likes to win so much. It gives him a good opportunity to dance at night.
Well, okay, one of the memorable moments was when he hit his head in the ceiling fan, and that's when I realized this is something. He was going at it pretty big that night. But no, a fantastic coach, and that's why he's got 3 wins under his belt, and he's just done so much to build a program at Teeter. I think is that Lisa Hutchinson on the bike for, or no, I'm sorry, that's Emma Coughlin on the bike for Teeter. Her older brother David Coughlin rode for Cutters in the 2000s and picked up a couple victories. So a little family connection there, and you see that a lot in the Little 500. Siblings find out how great this race is and want to be a part of it, and kind of follow suit with an older sibling.
And some of the neat parts, not just from siblings, brothers and sisters, but through generations, and that was certainly fun. Ran into somebody in the elevator today at the hotel. Was very proud talking to other people in the elevator about how he was here, that he wasn't riding, but his son was riding tomorrow for Sigma Chi.
Yeah, you know, it's a chance to kind of excel and be in the spotlight in college for something that's uncommon. And that's what's so special about Little 500s. It just lets kind of these individuals and these athletes come out and shine.
Yeah, you know what our viewers on the at home on TV don't see is what's happening downtown Bloomington, in the bars and in the parking lots and at all the houses. It's just a huge celebration of not just the race, but everybody getting together for this weekend.
The world's greatest college weekend.
That's right.
And you've seen it by some of the famous folks that have come through town over the years. You know, Bob Hope, who's much older than I am, he performed here, and then Dylan's friend Lance Armstrong was here in 1997 as the race marshal. So you see a lot of that kind of energy and enthusiasm around the race. And Lance has some things to say about the Little 500 when you told him you were coming, you know, this year, and Dylan, you've been back a number of years. What are some of his thoughts and your thoughts on Little 5?
Well, you know, we were both joking that maybe we could go back to college so that we could race in the Little 500, but somehow I think there's probably some rules that might prevent that, but we could dream.
Wing It moving to the forefront right now.
You know, the other thing that's a little bit dangerous about the situation that we have right now is we have 4 teams on the lead lap, yet you see a group here of about 15 to 20 riders, and some of these other riders could potentially get in the way. So the teams that are on the lead lap have to pay attention and stay out of trouble right now, because all it takes is one crash to completely change this race.
And it's kind of an unspoken rule. If you're a lap or 2 down, but you're a good, confident rider, the top teams will kind of let you in that group. But if you're not a confident rider and you're wiggly or something like that, they'll try to kind of push you back to the back. But all that is over once we get down to the last 5 laps of the race.
Looks like one of the riders having a cramp. Again, you know, that these teams have massage therapists, all kinds of staff to help them perform at their best.
I would call the Little 5 an intramural event in name only.
Right.
Doesn't feel anything like an intramural event.
Right, and as Dylan said, you know, these riders do go and get massages to take care of themselves before this race. It looks like she's got a little calf cramp there, trying to flush it out. But no, you're right, Rich, with, you know, thousands of dollars of budgets, right, for the teams to work off of. In months and months of training, if not years, and summer events with collegiate cycling, which happens in the spring, but USCF in the summer, they pack so much into a year. They take this very, very seriously.
Lap 66 of 100. 25th edition of the women's Little 500.
You see Kappa Delta there in the front. They are not on the lead lap, but a strong enough team that the other teams are comfortable letting eat up some laps on the front. As you see Teeter really kind of overpowering from the top, coming by with some force.
I think they're going to do an exchange and give the ball back to Lauren Gowdy.
It's Emma Coughlin on the bike for Teeter, with a good sized gap, and that's what you want to do. You want to get a little separation from the pack, which she's done a pretty good job of. Picked up the pace, and they're coming in for a bike exchange, which is a little bit slower than a rider exchange because they've got the rider getting on starts from a dead stop, as Lauren's doing right there.
Yeah,
out of the saddle.
And here's the challenge that Lauren has: is she has to immediately work her way through that lap traffic and stay out of danger and get back up to the front.
Right, and Wing It knows it. Wing It's on the front. You have to like this kind of aggressive nature. That's how you break this lap down, or this race down into sets. The Wing It rider right there is taking advantage of that last set and turning up the tempo. Queuing off, actually Wing It's going to come in for an exchange. They're queuing a little bit off Teeter and doing exchanges after Teeter. Here's the Wing It exchange. It's a bike exchange.
Kappa Gamma going to do an exchange as well. So on the bike now for Wing It, Carly Dean.
Teeter coming over the top, closed that down pretty well, but it kind of worked for both teams there a little bit. Wing It had enough of a gap. She doesn't need to chase. And they're all back together with Delta Gamma there in black. Kappa Alpha Theta in pink. They're not on the lead lap. And Kappa Kappa Gamma there in team number 7. They are on the lead lap. So our leaders are all together.
Gladly chewing up one lap after another.
Yeah, and you know, you can see them, they're not even pedaling in some cases, and that just means that they're kind of just settling in, looking around, seeing who's going to do what. Taking inventory of see who's there, who's still on the lead lap.
And Kappa Kappa Gamma, I think is pretty hungry this year. You know, their last win in 2006. I can see the way that they're riding. They deserve a shot at this today. They're riding very hungry.
Is this the lead group, John?
With all the pageantry and hype surrounding the Little Five, it's hard to believe it's not a professional race. Wouldn't all be possible without the tireless efforts put forth by a few handfuls of IU students.
The Indiana University Foundation has been aiding IU students with financial assistance since 1936. And in 1950, 1 year before the first Little 500, a student presence of the foundation was born.
It was really the brainchild of Howdy Wilcox. And at that time, Howdy was the president of the IU Foundation. Of course, the IU Foundation is the fundraising arm of the university. He began to get the impression that students didn't necessarily understand what it was that the foundation did. He formed the student foundation and got a lot of students involved, and amazingly, he got the first steering committee going in 1950, and just 1 year later, in 1951, the first race happened.
With all of the makings of a professional sporting event, it is sometimes difficult to remember the Little 500 is and always has been an intramural affair. In fact, everything you see here today is a product of hard work for the students, by the students.
It really is a major student organization here, and so the race is student-run, and it's used to raise money for scholarships. It's also a way of teaching philanthropy, that students who participate in this activity really understand the importance of philanthropy, and that carries in once they graduate.
This weekend, the Little 500 and the Student Foundation to this university is such a cornerstone. It means so much, and it kind of carries on the tradition that Indiana has to offer.
Each year we give away around $173,000 to students who are putting themselves through school. You get to actually select who some of these recipients are and see how this scholarship has impacted their life.
So it's a real testament to our kids, I think, to be able to say we pull off the biggest event on campus, and it's all done by students.
The event continues to grow and improve, and gentlemen, we're now in lap 73 for the lead teams on this. What are your thoughts as we come down this home stretch of how this has gone under the lights? I think it's been a nice little twist.
Well, I'm amazed just at how many people have turned out and that the sororities are still here. I mean, it's Rich, rain's coming down. It's less than 50 degrees, right? We're up here shivering.
It's chilly.
And the stands are still somewhat full, and these women are just competing like it's a sunny day. So I'm amazed at kind of what's going on. It's such a great tradition after 25 years. And we got a great race with 4 teams on the lead lap.
Teeter. Gamma.
And I really do love the balance. Delta Gamma picking up their first win in the 2000s. Kappa Kappa Gamma, perennial favorite. And then Teeter on the block, winning a couple years in a row and defending in yellow. It's just going to be fun to see how this plays out.
So Wing It in the white and blue.
And Wing It, a brand new team. And you heard kind of their story. When they started, they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't have any of the support, the right coaches, the knowledge of the race, and now they've created a team from nothing. So they have to be pretty proud as well.
So Wing It right there in the blue and white. They are the lead team. And now Teeter is going to blow by on the outside and grab the lead.
Well, and we've seen Wing It mark them and do their exchanges after Teeter all race. That's exactly what Wing It's done there. Teeter's coming in for a bike exchange, and Wing It is just glued to their wheel.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Wing It also takes this opportunity to do an exchange or potentially takes advantage of it and attacks.
Yeah, they like to do their exchanges 1 lap after Teeter. So, kind of look for something like that happen, and that experience with Tom Schwegler in the pit helps them there.
Well, Kappa Kappa Gamma does the exchange and gets Gruber on the bike.
That's right.
See Lauren Gowdy get off the bike there for Teeter.
Well, Jason, what we haven't heard from Dylan Casey yet, it's one of his famous lines that he uses. It's nobody's done the fakie yet. I'm waiting for him to break that out.
That's right. That's right. I thought maybe they were going to do that maybe this time around, because you can see Tom preparing one of his riders for an exchange.
Well, Tom's done a lot of these races, and I've seen a lot that he's coached. This is my 11th year up here. Tom, he's old school in the sense I don't see him doing the fakie to Dylan. You know, he kind of goes with his traditional nature. He's doing an exchange after Teeter each lap.
That's right, and it worked to perfection, because you see Teeter and Wing It now right back together.
Laura Miller on the bike for Wing It.
So it's good strategy, right? They're sitting, you know, and that's helping them get their gap that following lap. So it's a really good strategy right now for Wing It.
You can see Kappa in the upper left-hand corner of the screen really struggling to get back into the front.
Right, and the pace is just picked up right now. That's Casey Dukes on the bike for Delta Gamma, and I think she's coming in for an exchange, but does not have any gap right now. So Teeter and Wing It putting Delta Gamma in a little bit of hurt right now.
We're on lap 77. Let's go downstairs to Jackie.
I'm in Delta Gamma's pit right now with Coach Pam Big. Pam, right now your girls are riding on a mission. What are you telling them each lap they go around?
Yeah, we have just left out. We had a set kind of rough lap breakdown. It's gone exactly to plan. We've got our riders in, we've got lucky breaks, and they are just riding exactly what they've been working for all year. They're right on par. We're so excited.
That's great. We wish you the best of luck.
So
Loeb, director,
hey, with a younger sister down there in the pit for them, Emily, family connection here in the 500. But she's just dead on. Everything's working out to Delta Gamma's plan. They're not riding, you know, on the front with Wing It and Teeter, but they're on the front of the field, right where they need to be. And as we talked about earlier, it doesn't really matter where you are at lap 75. It matters where you are at lap 99 and 100.
4 women from Delta Gamma. Teeter in front, Wing It right behind them, Kappa Gamma in red. And Delta Gamma right there in black. That's the 4 teams on the lead lap.
You can see the pace starting to pick up as the riders are single file. Almost had a crash there as the rider overlapped wheels.
I think that's Kyle Megan in blue that kind of got out of the way. You see Theta on the front. You know, and the teams don't give up. We'll try to get a position on Theta. They're not on the lead lap, but they're still riding obviously pretty well. Regardless of whether you're on the lead lap, if you're fighting for a top 5, that's still okay. Top 10, they're not going to quit.
33, 32, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 27.
You talked about earlier, involved with many of these riders, you get a little wiggly, I believe you said. That can become part of the danger in this, especially as we get late in the race.
Yeah, that's right. Riders are starting to get fatigued and tired. They're losing concentration. That are not on the lead lap, sometimes they understand entirely what's happening around them, and they may not even realize that they're getting away.
And kind of the wet and cold speed, Dylan, you just, with the wet and the cold, your legs start to turn to mush after a while.
Team setting up for another exchange.
At the same time.
On the bike for Teeter.
Good communication. You can see how they set up a little bit staggered there for exchanges. They all can't come in on top of each other, but they stagger them to pull off those exchanges in sequence. It's really a work of art.
Instead of doing 1 lap after the exchange from Teeter, Wing It mirrors them this time.
Changing the scenario a little bit as we approach. We get a little bit closer to the finish here with 81 in the books. Only 19 laps to go.
And we're coming up on our first hour, 1 hour. Here's an exchange here.
There's a Kappa Gamma exchange. We'll have to watch this one. They're usually very, very good at exchanges. Always qualifying well. This is just a perfect exchange by Kappa Gamma. Flawless.
The wind blowing now, as it has all day. It is really starting to howl. See the rider here. All right, back downstairs to Jackie Moeller.
Hey guys, I'm in Teeter's pit with Coach Chris Wojtowicz again, and right now he's trying to tell his rider what's going on. I'm going to try and grab him. Woj, right now your rider is riding with 4 other of the top teams, and you guys are doing a lot of work right now.
Yeah, we're trying to rest now, and then we're going to try to make one big hit at the end. It's a tough race, so we're just going to see what happens right here in the last, 20 minutes or so.
And how do you want the rest of the riders to finish the race?
We want to go really hard right now. It's the last set for everybody. We'll set up our sprinter and hope for the best.
All right, good luck.
Yeah, Chris is accustomed to, last year you saw Teeter lap the pack, and he did that as a rider as well, so he's accustomed to being as aggressive as you can. With four riders as strong as they have on Teeter, there's nothing, he's absolutely dead on. He wants to be aggressive and not let this come down to a sprint.
Coughlin on the bike right now for Teeter in yellow. 2-time defending champ, trying to become the first women's team to win 3 straight Little 500s.
And the question, Dylan, is kind of how to pop the other teams, right? Or how to make the situation change, and that's what Teeter's going to need to figure out. They're going to have to maybe come from behind a little bit with a quick acceleration over the top, or kind of pivot off in exchange from another team and just make a separation happen. That's how they need to establish themselves. Oh, Teeter's coming in another short set. Seeing shorter sets, that's Lauren Gowdy in the pit.
And everybody's going to run their last hard sets coming up now for Teeter. Gowdy on the bike.
Yeah, and it's hard at this point in the race. Teeter's got to get back up to the front and then try to make the race with 15 laps to go.
Right, that last set was a little bit kind of opposite of what Chris was talking about. The rider didn't come in off the front, she came in from behind the pack, so now you see chasing happen. Speaking of Chris, I think we have something in the pits here. He's fired up, focused, and obviously really animated.
All kinds of good hand signals there. Thumbs up's always a good one to get.
In a game of charades, he wouldn't be a bad. I pick Chris on my team, right? But Lauren Gowdy's back into the race there. Teeter pulled that back together.
Teeter, wing it. Kappa, Kappa, Gamma, Delta, Gamma.
So Teeter's strategy really is to try to just push the race pace and make the other teams as tired as possible and set up the sprinter for the last lap.
For your sprinter, what would your guess be? How many laps? Let them know.
I think we'll see Teeter do shorter sets and try to string it out. But when you are the sprinter, you want to get the bike with a couple laps to flush it out. So maybe 4 to go, something like that, 4 to 5 to go. What you want to do is you want to find your rhythm, and you don't want to be chasing, right? If you've got a gap, you can take it as little as 2 to go, but I'd say 3 to 4 is ideal. And we're getting close to it, Rich. You see 87 in the book. We're on lap 88 of 100.
And 88's going to come on the book right here.
And I think this is going to be a fun race to watch over the last 12 laps.
Nobody is giving and conceding to teams. They're all, I think you'd say that a lot of teams right now are happy with their spot right now in the race.
They really are. They're just waiting for the last lap. They're not going to try to force Teeter. Which isn't necessarily the best strategy. Maybe they think that that's the best way. They're just going to wait for the last lap and try to out-sprint Teeter. But, Teeter's right now making the race hard, putting them in the defensive position.
You don't think it would be a bad idea for somebody like Kappa Kappa Gamma or Delta Gamma or somebody be like, why don't we make our push sooner and try to force a tempo as opposed to just waiting for them?
Absolutely, because right now you have all of the girls on the lead lap, the 4 teams, they're all looking at each other. So maybe Delta Gamma, you know, could take advantage of that and launch a flyer when everybody's paying attention to each other. Of course, they're going to look to Teeter to chase it down. And if she hesitates for just a minute, sometimes that hesitation is enough to actually win the race. This is the part where psychology really plays into how the race plays out.
And it's impossible to attack when somebody's driving as hard as Teeter is right now. But what you can do is wait till this exchange happens and continue to go and see what you can get.
That's right.
And so Teeter's riding shorter sets, they're riding hard, but not a big separation from the group there on that set.
And another exchange for Teeter, and they're back on the bike. We have 90 laps scored. Susan Laurie on the bike for Teeter, the defending champs 2 times over. We'll step aside and come back with the finish of the women's Little 5 here on HDNet.
Still ahead, more of the 25th running of the women's Little 500 on HDNet. The 2012 Little 500 is sponsored by 97, Pizza X, Canary Cycleware, TIS Store, Coyote Logistics, Office of Women's Affairs, Underground Printing, Lamar Outdoor Advertising, and
under the lights, and the women's Little 5 down to 5 teams.
5 teams. Delta Gamma is off the front right now.
In it, they are. We're getting. They've gotten themselves win, sitting third. With Delta Gamma up the road right now.
6 laps to go. Delta Gamma up the road.
Romaniak making a move on the.
Sneaking away. Everyone is looking at now.
Delta Gamma to push themselves up.
Well, that's what Dylan had talked about. Just
look, the Pam is telling Delta Gamma to slow down. I don't get the job. She was telling him to slow down.
She really hasn't dropped her pace. They've got, you know, a 100-meter lead on the group right now. They're closing. But that was a very nice move by Delta Gamma just to make something happen, right? You never know what's going to happen when you play your cards like that.
But that's right, and now
Kelsey Phillips on the bike for Delta Gamma. So they've got Kelsey Phillips. They've got a lot of experience on Delta Gamma. Use that. And to pull it back to
5 laps to go.
This Teeter exchange is huge. It's a bike exchange. I think that's Hutchison getting on the bike for Teeter. Okay, Hutchison would be their sprinter. She was second in Miss Analysis. She's
second in the ITT. Get the bike for the remainder of the race.
I think you're right. On 96 with.
We're going to come around here and have 3 laps to go. Tough because they're going to have to do an exchange. Their rider was just out there for 5 laps.
Well, at this point, Dylan, I think she might stay. This is where you kind of have to go with the flow of the race and not change.
Well, you're right. Duke's their best riders on the PGs.
You're right. We're going to have a 5-person sprint for the finish here.
Chelminiak for Kappa Alpha Theta. You've got Delta Gamma. You've got Wing It. Really comfortable in there. And Kappa Kappa Gamma.
Hutchinson just kind of leaning in the back of that pack right now, looking pretty comfortable for Theta.
That's right, she's just watching.
Wow, what a race. You know, you can see here we are, 97 in the books.
Chiliniak.
And here we are down to the 5 lead riders. Everybody else has kind of moved out of the way.
As it should.
That's right. This is the courtesy for the winners.
Well, and the thing about Little 5, with only 1 gear, that 46.18, it's hard to come around a lot of times. So when you've got pop, when you've got strength like Chiliniak has, I think she's comfortable. She's not going real hard right now. She's thinking about just sitting on the front and seeing if she can take the front on lap 99 with 1 to go.
That's right. This race is going to be won coming into turn 3 because of which way the direction of the wind is going right now. Whoever's leading in the turn 3 is going to win this race.
They're going to get the, see if we get the checkered flag here.
We are going to. And we're going to have one go. The first.
Here we go.
Lap to go. Capture 25th. Little 5. Chiliniak in turn 3 with the lead. Dukes trying to come around.
Delta
for the
Gamma.
winner of the Little 5, Dukes, and Delta Gamma win the Little 5.
What a finish right there by Casey Dukes. She was on the bike for that big set where she was off the front, and she well.
That Coach Pan told her to slow down. Left. Don't try
There, three-peat for Teeter.
You know, got for the team, right, to stay with that rider until the end. You know, at the coming out on a lot of heart.
The outside. And
really, she was at a disadvantage because when she was coming around, it was actually a tailwind section, so it's not easy to do. Took the long round to win.
Another look.
You can start the overtaker going the back. But Dukes have
A lot for taking the race with a lap to go. I'm sure she thought that if section, that we have a shot. Duke again was able to win. Really taking.
No coming up, just in the saddle. Really not a lot for got third and Wing It coming in fourth.
That's 2008.
A sinking white flag.
Perfectly happy to have this down to a sprint, but they didn't really
with the way they went through it and the way they played out a little bit stronger finishes. They were happy with the team they had the race play out that they did. Well, Jackie down there in the middle of the mayhem, and it is mayhem. Oh, what a wonderful day for the Lobigs. Pam, former race director here, now coaching DJs on victory, and now here's Jackie.
You got to go where the excitement is. That is where the fun is right now.
Pam, her sister. Here's
state as well. So here I go around her. So, and Kelsey, what does it mean to you to win for the 25th running of this race?
It's unbelievable. It's exactly what I planned, and I couldn't be happier.
You guys did an amazing job. Up in the booth, it's very chaotic down here. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Jackie. A fun race. It broke apart early. We had our pack of teams, and then it was anybody's race, and Delta Gamma does exactly what they wanted to do. Jackie had talked to Pam Lobig earlier and said this race is playing out exactly how we want it. We're in perfect position, and it paid off.
Yeah, you got to give Pam a lot of credit for telling Casey to slow down and don't win this race with 5 laps to go all by yourself, because you have other riders that are going to chase you down, and then you're going to get caught with a lap to go and be totally tired. So it was actually a good move. Really great.
I think they were comfortable with it throughout the race. Pam Lobig knew that they were riding it really kind of above expectations, and they sort of finished that way as well.
Man, what a day. Pam coaching, her sister Emily on the team. They win a 500 for the first time. I mean, you know, we had talked about that. Jan, I know we give you a hard time. How many did you win? Any of them? But come on, I was in here as part of it. And Pam similar said, you know, I don't have any regrets, but boy, the opportunity to be involved and win one really has to be special for her.
Yeah, you know, it certainly does, because she rode for Psychedelics. It's such a team event. You know, you can top her, and obviously they're just a balanced team with a good coach that, and they've got some experience with kids.
That's a shot right there. The riders from Wing It coming over and coming up and giving each other some congratulations.
Well, it's great to see everybody so excited about completing the race. You know, Wing It, that we talked about them so much before during the race, and to see them really get them. It's great.
Gentlemen, tomorrow we'll come back out here and we'll have the version of the 500 HDNet. That'll be in 2 Eastern, 11 Pacific. That will be Cutters. Someone knocks them off their perch, but this year I think somebody might be.
Right, I think if we go back, nobody has done anything like the Cutters with 5 wins in a row since 2007. So Phi Delta Theta, certainly a great team that has an opportunity to upset Cutters tomorrow. But a ton of excitement, and we call for a little bit better weather, which may be kind of larger crowds, a little bit more fun tomorrow. But
I think we'd all sign off on that.
Right.
No, this was what a night under the lights for the first time, 25th running of the women's race, and congratulations to the DGs in a victory.
Yeah, what a great race. It's so exciting to see everything play out. We saw the different phases of the race, the fast parts, the slow parts, the crashes, and ultimately what we were all waiting for was the sprint victory in the finish.
Turned out to be a 2-person sprint at the end, and Doug's the better sprinter tonight.
And what really kind of stands out to me is you see the kids down there, they're crying, you know, and they're hugging, and because for years they'll be coming back to Indiana University to celebrate this and to be a part of this, and it's just such a special event. We're all really proud to be a part of it.
You've been watching HDNet's exclusive coverage of the 25th Women's Little 500. The executive producer of HDNet Sports and tonight's director, Daryl Ewald. Line producer, Jerry Wetzel. Features producer, Mike Ricci. HDNet Engineering, Dan Neighbors, Lonnie Thomas, and Andrew Miranda. Production manager, Chris Markwell. Special thanks to our staff. Good night from Bloomington, Indiana.
I will miss most about my Little 500 experience is definitely my teammates. We've worked together all the time and spend so much time together, and it's just going to be fun to come back and watch them once I'm gone, but I'm definitely going to miss out on being a part of it.
I'd say the thing I'm going to miss most about the Little 500 is just all the great times I've had with my teammates over the years, going on training trips and doing the Nashville 90 and spending 4 or 5 hours out together. I mean, you run the full range of topics and really get to know these people better than anybody else in the entire world. And just all those memories I've had, I'm really going to treasure them for a very long time.
It's a time when you get really close with your teammates and even other teams on the track, and hopefully upon graduation I will have the chance to come back as an alumni and get involved in the Little 500 and other aspects of it as well.
Little 500, the race itself is only 2 hours long, and, you know, quals is a couple minutes, but I mean, I think those really special moments are, you know, the preparation and, you know, the countless hours, I mean, 15 to 20 hours a week. So, I mean, spending that much amount of time with, you know, 3 or 4 other guys is a pretty significant thing, and definitely going to miss that because, I mean, it's something really special and builds a lot of good relationships over my college career.
Even though everyone has their own teams, it's really such an amazing community, from professors to the people working in the bike shops, just to the Bloomington community, to the riders themselves. Everyone loves the event. We get so much support, and it's really just been such a great experience.